I'm glad I hadn't finished my videos for today yet when this bomb dropped tonight. Chris Haynes reports that the Phoenix Suns will be switching up their starting lineup, starting rookie Ryan Dunn and Mason Plumlee in place of Brad Beal and Jusuf Nurkic. Obviously, Brad Beal being the very interesting, very, very big part of that swap. I mean, the Nurkic story can 100% be talked about as well, and I think it's a real story. I don't think it's something to ignore by any means. But I think what's most interesting is the fact that they are benching Bradley Beal. The Suns are in a really, really fascinating spot. I made a video a couple days ago basically saying that I think they should blow it up. I honestly stand by that video, and I'll talk about why in this video. But I also want to talk about what I think might be going on with this team in certain ways, and some of my thoughts about what this swap could do, but also how insignificant I think there's a good chance it will wind up being. So before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 2,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day, multiple NBA videos a day. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. Without further ado, let's hop right into it. So this will start actually tonight against Philly, their first game. I guess in their next game, it's starting immediately and is a pretty big change for a team that clearly has been struggling pretty massively as of late. I mean, they have lost 4 games in a row, 3-7 in their last 10 games. They are now a game and a half out of the play-in, 4 games out of a top 6 seed. Really playing poor basketball. Their net rating has dropped to a negative 2.3, which is certainly not a good spot to be. They're just not playing good basketball in any way. And the problem is a lot of these games, I mean, Kevin Durant's healthy for these games, right? Like they were playing bad without KD early in the season, but they were playing really good with him. They were 9-1 in their first 10 games with KD. Now they can't win games with KD healthy. I mean, this is a team that isn't really suffering from hugely significant injuries right now, and yet they're still struggling as big as they are. And again, they have no draft capital, no draft assets really at all to trade. I mean, they might have one pick swap that they could potentially trade, but they've pretty much traded away every single viable asset draft-wise that they have, which makes it very, very hard to upgrade a roster that is capped by the second apron. I mean, they're in cap hell. Their roster is full of a bunch of overpaid guys who are really not producing. Brad Beal right at the top of that list. We'll talk about his contract later on in this video. Not to mention he has a no trade clause as well. So it kind of gets even worse in that capacity, which makes it really, really tough for them to make moves to improve this roster. So while I think that this move might improve some things defensively, you look at the numbers for this season, defensive rating wise, they are 8th worst in the league at 115.4. Like I said, the net rating has dropped significantly to being bottom 11 in the league as well, at negative 2.3. Like, they're just clearly not all that good of a basketball team, especially on the defensive end of the court. And honestly, offensively, I mean, you would think they'd be an elite level offensive team, but they're only 10th in offense as well, which really is not a great spot to be. And let's look at their last 10 games. Those numbers are definitely noticeably worse in the last 10 games. A 118 defensive rating, 3rd worst in the league in the last 10 games. Offensive rating wise has fallen all the way down to about league average at 15th, and their net rating is all the way down to 9th worst in the league. Basically with a bunch of tanking teams and teams that are also struggling massively, like the Timberwolves and the Warriors. Really, really bad look for the Suns recently in a ton of different ways. Like, they're not playing great offensively. Defensively, they have been atrocious. And so, look, I do think that this move can improve the defense. Ryan Dunn is a super high-level point of attack defender, and I do think there's a lot of talent there on the defensive end of the court. The problem with Ryan Dunn is that after starting the season really, really hot from 3, he's down to 30% from 3. That was the biggest concern by far of his skill set, basically. And I really do think he's starting to struggle a lot because, again, if you look at the way he started the season, there were a lot of high-level performances, 3 for 5, 3 for 6, 4 for 9. And then since then, it has really dropped off the cliff. I mean, recently, he goes 2 for 3, but then it's 0 for 2, 0 for 1, 1 for 3, 1 for 4, 1 2 for 2, 1 for 5, 1 for 6, 2 for 5, 1 for 4. Like, these are consistent, very poor shooting numbers, and they've been stretching on really since early November at this point. Like, he has not been a consistently good shooter since the first week or 2 of the season. The issues that were clearly looking like they might produce themselves in Ryan Dunn's game have done so. And so, look, do I think he's a talented player who's going to help out the defense? Yes. Do I think adding another non-shooter to the starting lineup is a great idea? No, not really, especially when you consider the fact, I mean, Nurkic has been terrible as a shooter. Mason Plumlee is a total non-shooter as well. I'm not totally sure what that swap does. He's not really, I mean, he's a more efficient player around the rim than Nurkic is, at least to this point in the season. He's shooting more efficiently. He does tend, I feel like, to turn the ball over less as well. I mean, Nurkic's turnover issues have been clear. 2.3 turnovers a game this season is really, really disastrous for a guy who's not supposed to be a shot creator. Like, he is just He turns the ball over too much. He's not efficient. He shoots too many threes, especially considering he shoots them very poorly. Like, it just in general, he's been bad. Problem is, Mason Plumlee really hasn't been that much better. In my opinion, the guy they should be starting at the center position is rookie Oso Ighodaro, who's 59, almost 60% from around the rim, and he provides a little more of that athleticism. He 100% knows his role. He's not going to try to do too much with the ball in his hands. And he's got a plus minus of plus 9.3 points per 100 possessions this season for the Nuggets, which is second highest on the team behind Monte Morris. Look, they need a center 100%, and they don't really have the assets to go get one. But out of the centers on their roster, I actually think Oso Ighodaro provides the most athleticism, versatility, and potential promise out of those three guys. I would consider starting Oso, bringing Mason off the bench, and completely removing Nurkic out of the rotation. Problem is, Nurkic has no trade value, so I don't know what you do with him as a player. And the thing is, Bradley Beal also has no trade value, not to mention all the restrictions of the second apron and all of the salary cap issues that the Suns would have trying to get rid of him, plus his no trade clause. But you look at the contract, what are teams giving up for a dude who is owed $50 million this season, $53 next season, and has a player option that I absolutely guarantee he will pick up in 26-27 at $57 million a year? That is obscene. For a guy who is a 17, 18 point per game scorer, I mean, his numbers are not terrible. His efficiency's been pretty good, but he's a minus defender. He's not a plus playmaker. He's not a guy who you can count on to play winning basketball, and his contract is among the very worst in the entire league. Not only are teams not going to give up assets for him, but he's also got a no trade clause, so he can veto any trade he doesn't like. That's a really, really rough spot for the Suns to be in, and that's the problem at the end of the day that I think this team is going to have. I literally think they might, my opinion, and I said this in my other video, and I'm going to reiterate here in case you didn't see that video. I think they should trade Booker and KD. Those two dudes have a lot of value. You could recoup, I think, 8, 9 draft picks and like first round draft picks between those two guys and multiple young player assets as well. Like, I truly believe that could give you a serious haul to actually start working on rebuilding with. Those are two of the top 15 or so players in basketball. I know Booker's had a down season, but come on, both those dudes are elite talents. Booker has some real playmaking chops as well. Those are guys who immediately can go into playoff teams and make them serious contenders, provided health, which is a bigger question for KD than it is for Booker for sure. But still, that's what I would do. But instead, look, can I blame them for making changes to the starting lineup? No. Do I think it's going to help anything? No. Do I think it's going to help the chemistry? Probably not. Brad Beal's not going to be happy about coming off the bench. He's going to look at his numbers, and on the surface, the efficiency is pretty good. He's going to be like, why are y'all benching me? I've been the second best player. And efficiency-wise, he kind of has been better than Booker, although Booker's done it on a higher volume. Like, the Suns are in a no-win position is the honest conclusion that I have about this team at this point, and I just don't know what you do going forward, because this feels like a move that really isn't going to fix anything. And I think they still need a center. They still need wing defenders who can shoot. They really only have Royce O'Neal to play that role, and he's been really good, but that's about it. I mean, do you trust Josh Okogie's shooting at 37.5% this year? Like, that's big improvement, but you don't love it. I don't know. I'm really struggling to see a realistic path forward for this Suns team to even get into, like, make it out the first round contention. I'm not sure they're going to make the playoffs. I would not be surprised at all if they completely miss the playoffs. I think they should blow it up. That is going to continue to be my take, but it will at least be interesting to see if these changes to the starting lineup make any difference at all, or if things continue to go down a code red, just disastrous path the way that they have been recently for the Suns. So it'll be interesting to follow. Just thought I'd make a video on this because this is a big change. Former All-Star and Brad Beal being benched is a big deal. It certainly is. But I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more NBA content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.